Welcome to our Zoom into our career series, a series designed to introduce students to a culture of high achievement and highlight the many different career pathways available to them. I'm Andrew Kohler, the Community Relations Coordinator here at Yelm Community Schools, and today we have Dan Crowe of Crowe Law with us to share a little bit about their career as a lawyer and as a business owner. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you that this Zoom is being recorded, and a link to this video will be posted on our website for future viewing. Welcome, Dan, and thank you for joining us today. Today.
Pleasure to be here.
And maybe start off by telling us a little bit about what you do.
So I own the Crowe Law office here in Yelm, big white building with the pillars right on Yelm Avenue. We do estate planning, we do probate, we do business and real estate, and I do some criminal defense work. Primarily in those areas, I'm doing both transactional work, which is drafting contracts and helping businesses merge and forming new businesses and things like that. And I also do a lot of litigation, although not these days.
One of the things that I didn't know about until recently is what kind of case, or what does a case look like in real estate?
So in real estate, for me, it's really a broad category. We do landlord-tenant disputes and evictions. We do a lot of work, it seems like, in this area with people who are having a hard time determining where their boundary lines are. And there's a dispute between neighbors and we're fighting over those. We also do a lot of litigation with regards to contracts. Where somebody's signed a purchase and sale agreement or something along those lines and everything's gone wrong, or somebody has failed to disclose that the septic system doesn't work or something along those lines. We have to take those cases on and deal with those.
And are you usually on the side of what side are you on that? Protecting the purchaser, or is it kind of a mixture of both?
I'm on the side that hires me. Doesn't matter to me. We take a side, and the client, whatever client retains my services, I'm on their side.
Gotcha. And then you're kind of in a unique situation because not only are you only a lawyer, and I hate to say it like that, but you're also a business owner. Where did you start, and how did you start, and what kind of made you take that step of, okay, I'm gonna start my own small business?
So yeah, no, I'm only a lawyer. I'm a poor country lawyer who doesn't know how to run a business. Seriously, so my career path was it started off pretty typical. I avoided becoming a lawyer for a long time. My whole family is made up of lawyers, my father, my uncles, my grandfather. And so I went into commercial real estate because, I didn't want to be like them, even though they were fantastic people. But I did that for a while and finally realized that this really was kind of my calling. This is what I wanted to do. And so I went to law school. I graduated in 2002, and I did what law students are supposed to do, kind of what the stereotype and the training is. I went into to work with a big, huge law firm. And because that's what you're supposed to do. That's where the big money is, and that's where the excitement is, and that's, it's sort of the dream that you're supposed to have. And I was wrong. I did not enjoy working for a big law firm one bit. The work hours were terrible, the people were terrible, the clients were terrible. It just didn't, it was not for me. So I came down, I was in Tacoma at the time, living down here, but commuting every day. Came down here and went to work for a smaller firm in Olympia. And then 2009, 2010 kind of hit. And I don't know if you recall, but the economy was not strong in those years, especially in real estate. And so I was looking at probably losing my job just because I was working for a firm that did nothing but real estate. So they were falling apart. And I decided that I was just going to wing it. Let's go for it, start my own law firm. I knew that I'd done a lot of business work, so I should be able to run a business. Also wrong. It turns out that being able to practice law and really knowing a lot about business law has nothing to do with actually running a business. So that was a huge challenge, and I got lucky several times, and I hustled as hard as I could, worked like crazy, and built the business up to what it is now.
What did you not foresee when you opened up your business? Or maybe something that you had to, you knew law, but you had to learn how to run a business. What are some of the things that you may have struggled with and that you had to overcome?
Really, pretty much everything. I figured I would just start the business and I would just hang out my shingle and clients would show up and magically pay me money and I'd go, practice law, and that was all I had to worry about. There is a tremendous amount that I did not know. Marketing is something that I had to learn from scratch, and that's one of the areas where I made a ton of mistakes and managed to recover from them. But finding new clients, just getting my name out there. The bookkeeping is something I've never been terribly good at, but that was something I had to learn too. And dealing with employees, I'm down to just one employee right now, but I have had several in the past, and figuring out how to be a good manager of people was something that they don't teach you any of this stuff in law school, right? They don't even teach you how to practice law in law school. They just sort of teach you what the law is, and then you're supposed to figure it out when you get out of law school. So those were all these huge challenges. And like I said, mistakes were made, thankfully not fatal to the business kind of mistakes, but I just learned by screwing up and fixing it and screwing up again, and on and on, trial and error.
And going back to the law side, what does the process look like? And if you could describe, not in detail of any confidentiality of, what does a case look like, and from the time that it's presented to you the first time, deciding whether you're going to take it or not, to going to the courthouse.
So, yeah, it's not anything like you see on TV. It's a much more laborious and a much more lengthy process, and there's a lot of paperwork that goes into it. It's not just all the sort of the fancy, exciting stuff. When a client comes to me with a case, the first thing we do is we sit down and we spend some time really talking about what's going on with them, what their needs are, what's going on, why are you here, and what's the problem, and how do we go about fixing it. Then we just map out a sort of a timeline. Like, this is what we need to do to get to where your goal is on down the road. And that may involve litigation. Usually I try to avoid litigation if I can, even though it's my business and that's how I put food on my table. Litigation is tough. It's very expensive. It's very emotionally costly. So we talk about some ways that we might be able to resolve their case without actually suing anybody, whether it's sending out a demand letter or asking for mediation, or seeing if we can just get everybody to sit down and work something out. If we can't do that, then sometimes litigation is necessary, and you have to do it because there's no other way to deal with the problem. So we file a lawsuit. That opening, it's called a summons and a complaint. We get that filed with the court. We get it served on the other party. So we have process servers we work with who go find them and knock on their door and stick it in their face, which is apparently very unpleasant, but that's what they do. And then we have to wait at least 20 days. It depends on where we serve them and how we serve them, but we have to wait at least 20 days to give them a chance to respond. A lot of times they'll respond by suing us back, called a countersuit. And then we have 20 days to respond to that. After that, we go into this period called discovery that can take, in Thurston County, it can take a year before you get to trial. It can take longer than that sometimes. And with current situation, with the courts being shut down because of the coronavirus, we're about to come out of a 3-month, basically stop work. I don't know what the backlog is going to look like. So it's going to take forever to get to trial after this. But during that period, we're bringing various motions. A motion is just, a written request to the judge to enter some kind of an order or to sort of do what we want. It doesn't necessarily end the case, but it helps direct the case, or it helps resolve problems, because attorneys are fighting with each other and can't come to a reasonable conclusion. But we do that. We do depositions. We do send out interrogatories, which are just questions that people have to answer under oath. There's a lot of work that's going on. A lot of it's just paperwork. I mean, you're not going to court for this stuff. You're just generating massive reams of paperwork and files. And then eventually you get to, if you can't resolve it, then eventually you get to trial. And the trial is a trial. And you go in, and sometimes you have a jury, sometimes you don't. And you present your case to the judge, and the other side presents theirs, and nobody's happy, usually walking away from it. Even if you win, nobody's happy. So another reason to try to avoid litigation.
Do you call people to the stand and things like that, like you see on TV?
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's how you get information in trial. So that's a huge part of what I do. When the other side is calling people to the stand, I also get to sort of stand up and say, objection, objection, and hopefully have a valid reason for the objection. I had a law professor who said, if you ever fall asleep in trial, wake up objecting. No matter what happens, you wake up, just shout an objection and then make something up. No, I get to do all, yeah, I get to do all that stuff. And we present evidence, and I get to stick paper under people's nose and question them until they, they crumble.
When I can imagine that you already know the answer that you may want, although I'm guessing sometimes it surprises you in their answer. How do you formulate your questions?
Well, so that is, I mean, that's true. You don't ever want to ask a question in trial. Sometimes we have motions where we're presenting evidence as well. You don't ever want to ask a question that you don't know the answer to. I mean, that is just inviting disaster. You are asking for trouble if you're doing that. So what I do, trial prep takes twice as long as actually doing the trial. I'll sit down and I'll have a list of questions for every single witness that I want to ask. And I will have already figured out what the answers to those questions are. And if their answer differs from what my answer is, I've got something to back up what they should have said, and then I can, I can present them with that evidence. So, I say, did you sign this contract? And they say no, and I say, well, look, here's a contract with your signature on it. What does that mean? And we can take it from there. But you still get surprises. I mean, every once in a while, a witness will just go completely sideways on you, and you just sort of stand there looking at them like, I don't know what just happened, but let's go with it.
And what important skills or training do you need to enter this field? And it doesn't have to be, I don't know, it doesn't have to be as specific, but what kind of training would you recommend they take?
So the skills that are really important, the main one is communication. You need to be able to communicate very well, both orally and in writing. And that's something I think a lot of people struggle with. But your ability to write a brief or a memo or even just a letter to a client, that needs to be there. And your ability to speak well is also important, especially if you're in court. So it's also good to sort of learn how to speak well in an adversarial situation. We're talking about these motions that I'm bringing and trials. In those things, you've got another attorney who's on the other side who's trying as hard as he or she can to destroy your argument while you're trying to get your argument out, and you may have a hostile judge who's also giving you grief. So you're getting interrupted, and you are trying to respond to sort of the changing landscape of the argument and everything else. Developing those abilities is important. So debate or something like that would also be a really good path to take.
And did you look up to anybody before you, or I could say, do you look up to anybody now, or was there anybody that inspired you to take on the path that you've taken?
Yeah, my father, of course. Like I said, he was an attorney, and he's passed away now, but he's somebody that inspired me, still inspires me to this day. He was a small town lawyer, and I'm a small town lawyer, different small towns, but it's the same kind of thing, and I feel like I'm really sort of living up to that legacy. Once I became an attorney, I was pretty lucky. That first firm that I worked with, I know I just complained about them earlier in the interview, but there were a couple of attorneys there who I think are some of probably the best attorneys in Washington State, in the areas that they practiced. And I was lucky enough to have them as mentors. And sometimes they were pretty harsh on me, but they taught me how to practice law. Because like I said, you do not learn how to practice law in law school. You learn all about the law, but actually doing the law is a very different thing altogether. And they destroyed my briefs, and they destroyed my memos, and they yelled at me a few times, but they got me going, and I have a deep respect for them.
And what do you recommend students do now to make them more employable? It doesn't have to be, going into law or anything, but what do you look for when you're trying to hire somebody?
So it depends a little on the position that I'm hiring them for, of course. And in my industry, you're hiring people that have some degree of legal training already, unless it's for, say, a receptionist position or something along those lines. And even then, it's preferable that they at least understand the lingo. But again, communication. I want somebody who I can have a conversation with that is smart and quick and is able to pick up on what we're saying or a task that's assigned to them. I like somebody that's willing to take a task and run with it as well. If I can say, look, I need you to here's the goal. I want this to get done. And if I don't have to walk you through every single step of the way as your manager, if you can just say, okay, I'll get it done, and you figure it out, and you go and you do it, and then you look for the next task, that's huge. That's huge, because I don't have time to hold somebody's hand. this is a busy business. I got to run the stupid business and practice law on top of that. So, somebody who can really take the ball and run with it that's huge.
Are there any specific classes that you'd recommend someone who might be looking into getting into law?
Sure. I don't think at the high school level that really makes much of a difference. I mean, obviously take as many, higher level AP classes, things like that as you can to get into a good college. But you're not going to be practicing law until you've actually got a college degree, an undergraduate degree, and then you have a law degree under your belt. So it's going to be a while. In college, I think a poli-sci major, an English major, those things are very important. If you want to get into things like, patent law or something, then a science degree is very important, but not a whole lot of patent lawyers out there. But if that's your passion and you want to do patent persecution or prosecution rather, or something like that, then I guess get a science degree. But really, it's the communication degrees. My undergraduate degree is a double degree in English with an emphasis on professional writing and in medieval history. That last one was kind of worthless, but ask me about the Crusades, great.
But the writing in pretty much any career is so important, because you need to be able to, whether it's just communicating through email or whether it's writing a report, you need to be able to write. So one of those things is, maybe take as many courses that promote writing. I'm thinking creative writing or even newspaper or some kind of journalism, just to get people writing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I know your background as well, so journalism is a great way to go. But yeah, the ability to communicate in writing is, I think, critical for any career, really. The better you communicate, the better you will do in, I don't care if it's the law, or I don't care if it's medicine, I don't care if it's construction, whatever it is, the more you can communicate well with other people, the further you're going to go.
It's awesome. And then, kind of piggybacking off of that, is what advice would you have given yourself in high school to better prepare yourself for your career?
Oh, I would stop screwing off, pay attention. I was a very average student in high school, in almost every way. I wasn't a standout scholar or athlete or anything else. I was great at sort of partying and avoiding responsibility. If I had not done that, I think I would have gotten into a better college. And not that I went to a poor college, I did fine, but I think I would have developed the work ethic that I needed. It would have been a better way to go. We're all young, it happens, but really, if I paid more attention to my studies and if I'd worked harder, I would have developed the skills that I needed a lot faster.
I agree. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, or a little bit of advice that you'd like to give our students graduating today?
Yeah, this is a tough time to be graduating right now. I mean, it's not just this, the current coronavirus pandemic that we've got going on, but the economy is tanking, it's crashing. This is a hard time, and I guess I would just tell people, don't give up. No matter what, don't give up. Just keep hammering away at it. If you're looking for a job right out of high school, that's fine. Keep getting resumes out. Keep knocking on doors if you have to. We hired our very first receptionist. She walked in the door and she said, "You guys need a receptionist?" And we said, "No, we don't. We're doing fine." And she said, "I'll start on Monday." And we thought that was kind of hilarious. And then on Monday, she showed up. And so we gave her a desk and gave her a salary, and we're like, "I guess you're here, so we have a receptionist now." It was that perseverance that she had, and she was great. She was great. She'd still be working here, but her husband PCS to Japan, so we lost her. But that kind. I'm not saying just sort of crash a business and tell them you work there now, but I'm saying persevere. Don't ever give up. And if you've got a dream, even if it's a long way out, follow it.
Awesome advice. Well, anyway, Dan, we're coming up to the end of the interview, and I just want to say thanks again for doing this and taking time out of your busy day. I know it might not be as busy as usual, but we definitely appreciate the time, and I think a lot of people will, a lot of our students will see this and appreciate it.
Good. Well, I hope so. Yeah, it'll be great.
All right.
Great. I appreciate your your contacting me to do this.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and Yeah, we'll be in touch. I'm sure I'll see you around town.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
All right. Well, always a pleasure. Again, Dan Crowe, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
See ya.